Thank you for joining Wars of the Roses. And this is Schaw, William from the Encyclopedia of Freemasonry by Albert G. Mackey. Sir Schaw, William, a name which is intimately connected with the history of Freemasonry in Scotland. For the particulars of his life, we are principally indebted to the writer, said to have been Sir David Brewster. Lyon's History of Lodge of Edinburgh, page 55 of Appendix Q, 2 in the Constitutions, 1848 of the Grand Lodge of Scotland. William Schaw was born in the year 1550 and was probably a son of Schaw of Sauchie in the Shire of Clackmannan. He appears from an early period of life to have been connected with the royal household. In proof of this, we may refer to his signature attached to the original parchment deed of the National Covenant, which was signed by King James VI and his household at Holyrood Palace, January 28, 1580-1, Old Style, it not being until an act of the Privy Council in Scotland, 1599, made January 1 New Year's Day from 1600. In 1584, Schaw became successor to Sir Robert Drummond of Cammock as Master of Works. This high official appointment placed under his superintendence all the royal buildings and palaces in Scotland, and in the treasurer's accounts of a subsequent period, various sums are entered as having been paid to him in connection with these buildings for improvements, repairs, and additions. Thus, in September 1585, the sum of £315 was paid to William Schaw, His Majesty's Maester of Wark, for the reparation and mending of the Castell of Streweling, and in May 1590, £400 by His Majesty's precept was delivered to William Schaw, the Maester of Wark, for reparation of the house of Dunfermline, before the Queen's Majesty passing thereto. Sir James Melville, in his memoirs, mentions that, being appointed to receive the 3 Danish ambassadors who came to Scotland in 1585, with overtures for an alliance with one of the daughters of Frederick II, he requested the king that 2 other persons might be joined with him, and for this purpose he named Schaw and James Meldrum of Seggy, one of the Lords of Session. It further appears that Schaw had been employed in various missions to France. He accompanied James VI to Denmark in the winter of 1589, previous to the king's marriage with the Princess Anna of Denmark, which was celebrated at Upslo in Norway on the 23rd of November. The king and his attendants remained during the winter season in Denmark, but Schaw returned to Scotland on the 16th of March, 1589-90, for the purpose of making the necessary arrangements for the reception of the wedding party. Schaw brought with him a paper subscribed by the king containing the order set down by His Majesty to be effectuate by His Highness Secret Council, and preparit agane, His Majesty's return in Scotland, dated in February 1589 to 1590. The king and his royal bride arrived in Leith on the 1st of May and remained there 6 days in a building called the King's Work until the Palace of Holyrood was prepared for their reception. Extensive alterations had evidently been made at this time at Holyrood, as a warrant was issued by the Provost and Council of Edinburgh to deliver to William Schaw, Maester of Wark, the sum of £1,000, restand of the last taxation of £20,000, granted by the royal boroughs in Scotland, the sum to be expended in bigging and repairing of this Hinds Palace of Holyrood House. 14th March, 1589-90. Subsequent payments to Schaw occur in the treasurer's accounts for broad scarlet cloth and other stuff, for bird claithes and coverings to forms and windows, both in the kirk and palace of Holyrood House. On this occasion, various sums were also paid by a precept from the king for dresses, etc., to the ministers and others connected with the royal household. At this time, William Schaw, Maester of Wark, received £133. The Queen was crowned on the 17th of May, and 2 days following she made her first public entrance into Edinburgh. The inscription on Shaw's monument states that he was, in addition to his office of Master of the Works, Sacris Ceremoniis Prepositus and Reginae Quaestor, which Monteith has translated as Sacrist and Queen's Chamberlain. This appointment of Chamberlain evinces the high regard in which the Queen held him, but there can be no doubt that the former words relate to his holding the office of General Warden of the Ceremonies of the Masonic Craft, an office analogous to that of Substitute Grand Master, as now existing in the Grand Lodge of Scotland. William Schaw died April 18, 1602, and was buried in the Abbey Church of Dunfermline, where a monument was erected to his memory by his grateful mistress, the Queen. On this monument is his name and monogram cut in a marble slab, which tradition says was executed by his own hand, and containing his Freemason's mark, and an inscription in Latin in which he is described as one imbued with every liberal art and science, most skillful in architecture, and in labours and business not only unwearied and indefatigable, but ever assiduous and energetic. No man appears from the records to have lived with more of the commendation or died with more of the regret of others than this old Scottish Freemason. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Roses. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.